Welcome to the show. How do we argue with those who are incapable of argumentation? Now, this is a question I've been grappling with for quite some time. If a child is screaming at you, wanting more sweets before dinner or something, you can try engaging them in a debate, outlining the pros and cons of ingesting unhealthy food in advance of a nutritious meal, but it really probably won't work. In the end, you just have to tell them what to do. Or better still, avoid having children in the first place. Similarly, when it comes to the digital playground known as Twitter, there are many people who you simply won't be able to reason with. And when someone just screams insults or mischaracterises your views or tells you that they know what you secretly think or just generally cannot engage in good faith, the best thing to do is block them. You don't owe anyone your time and attention, and you'll only drive yourself mad trying to reason with the unreasonable. And this week, there have been a number of people online, mostly activists, who've been complaining that blocking people on Twitter makes me a hypocrite and that it means I don't believe in free speech. Now, this is such a basic misunderstanding of free speech that you might be wondering why I should address it at all. But you'd be surprised at how widespread this misapprehension is. As the commentator Stephen Knight, known online as the Godless Spell Checker, succinctly put it, someone implying that being blocked on Twitter is somehow a violation of their free speech is the fastest way you can tell people you don't understand free speech. So given how many people are confused about this very simple idea, it's perhaps worth reminding ourselves what free speech is and what free speech isn't. Most importantly, free speech includes the right not to listen. If someone phones you up and starts shouting abuse down the line, you're not violating their free speech by hanging up. Even if they weren't being abusive, you're well within your rights to hang up. And if you block someone on social media, all it means is that you're not interested in what they've got to say. I've been blocked by hundreds of people online. Is my free speech affected? Not in the least. These people just don't want to listen to what I've got to say, and however crazy that might sound, that is their prerogative. I wrote a book on free speech in which I explained all of these very basic points. Should I start claiming that anyone who hasn't read my book is violating my free speech? Because this is the identical logic of those who complain about being blocked. What is a violation of your free speech is when a figure in authority, either the government or Silicon Valley tech giants who moderate the modern-day public square that is social media, decide to silence you. And this can be done through the enactment of hate speech laws or by censoring social media accounts. Twitter can harm your free speech by taking away your account. Another user choosing to block you cannot. And this is the key point. The block function on social media is a guarantee of free speech. It means that the decisions over what we read lies with each individual user. It means we don't need some overlord on Twitter's Trust and Safety Council to decide what is best for us. This is why it makes no sense for social media platforms to be banning accounts for being offensive. Users can decide for themselves what they're offended by, what they choose to read and what they choose to block. It's also why I've been so critical of the Tory government and its online safety bill. These draconian measures would put pressure on social media companies to censor what they call legal but harmful speech. But who's to say what's harmful? That's surely a question for each individual, not for faceless corporations with an ideological agenda, and certainly not for a government who may have a vested interest in silencing critical voices. Here's a good rule of thumb when it comes to blocking online. Just imagine if someone came up to you on the street and said, "You are an evil, ugly Nazi and you should be thrown into a live volcano." Now, what would you do in that situation? Would you stop for a moment and say, "Oh, goodness, that's an interesting point of view. Let's discuss that a little more, shall we?" Or would you just walk away? And if you would walk away, that's the equivalent of the block on social media. It's just simply not a free speech issue. Being in favour of free speech doesn't mean you want to listen to what every single maniac online has to say. It means that you don't want anyone to be censored. You can also choose to mute people online, but this does leave you open to malicious campaigns of mass reporting, so blocking is better. The echo chamber phenomenon is a real issue. I've never understood those who only want to hear their own opinions repeated back to them. How can you possibly develop your ideas if you don't ever allow yourself to be challenged? And for those of us who still believe in the power of persuasion and the capacity of human beings to keep an open mind, there is a moral duty to enter into dialogue with our critics. We do so in order that we might see our own certainties challenged, on the understanding that we might all be wrong. We always are wrong about something at any given point. But when our detractors are unable or unwilling to leave aside their prejudices, are convinced of their own infallibility, and perceive any dissent as a signifier of malevolence, how is this duty to be undertaken? Really, it's about being selective. No one who knows the first thing about me could seriously accuse me of wanting to live in an echo chamber because I go out of my way to read books and articles by people with a different mindset. It's why every week I invite those who fundamentally disagree with my worldview onto this very show. Now, they usually decline, but at least I make the effort. But what I won't do is waste my time with online trolls, screaming abuse and sending threats. I don't have the patience. There are some people who can engage with unreasonable people. The musician Doyle, for instance, has successfully de-radicalised numerous members of the Ku Klux Klan. But he has a rare talent and infinite patience. I'm grateful that people like Doyle exist, but I don't have those kind of abilities. Somehow, in the quagmire of social media, we have to find a way to restore civility when it comes to our differences. If someone is calling everyone who disagrees with them a Nazi, that isn't someone who is capable of rational debate. So my advice is be selective. Talk to those who are capable of talking. Block or mute those who aren't. They're perfectly free to scurry away and scream about you as much as they like. But when it comes to conversations about sensitive and important issues, you'd be better off saving your energy for the adults.